I know you're all busy exploring the depths of Hyrule and bouncing from Sky Island to Sky Island, but that three-headed dragon is looking mighty familiar. Link's humming the Legend of Zelda theme song, and there is just so much Legend of Zelda lore to cover. So, without further ado, here are only some of the things you might have missed in Tears of the Kingdom. Right away, Tears of the Kingdom gives us some great quality of life updates. Food is now readily available from the D-pad, you can cook on the go, and you can even bring your horses over from Breath of the Wild. How thoughtful of them. But before we go gallivanting with Epona looking for vehicle parts, head to Hateno Village. After speaking to Sage, you'll be introduced to the world of Paraglider fabrics. So you can slay while you soar. Feeling nostalgic for the original Legend of Zelda? Use the 8-bit Link amiibo, and you can be gifted with a fabric matching his iconic pixelated look. Maybe you're more of a Majora's Mask fan. Well, you're in luck because Tears of the Kingdom has that too. Now, personally, I prefer the Demon King fabric. Its Art Deco meets an ancient, unstoppably evil entity. What's not to love? Explosives are a staple of The Legend of Zelda. They've been a crucial ingredient in the Zelda stew since the first game. And even though the taste is the same, each iteration has its own unique take on the recipe. Be they blue, black, bagged, or attached to an arrow, bombs blow up better than anything else. But gone are the luxurious days of exploding orbs and cubes on demand. In Tears of the Kingdom, you are given bomb flowers in the remote bomb's stead. The dangerously delightful flowers are nothing new to seasoned Zelda fans, having first appeared all the way back in the Ocarina of Time. There is something almost poetic about a flower causing so much destruction. Before I begin, the logo of Tears of the Kingdom is not in fact an Ouroboros. It is instead two dragons, possibly eating each other's tails, but more likely a reference to the game's ending and the Zanai in general. But we should be thinking cyclically, because this game is oozing it thematically. Not only is Ganon almost a confirmed reincarnation of Demise, but there will always be some form of Princess Zelda. Link loses Zelda in the beginning by failing to grab her. He saves her in the end by doing just that. The shots are even similar. Not to mention Zelda's entire story in Tears of the Kingdom takes place in the past, helping set in motion the events that lead to not only the previous game, but the entirety of Hyrulean history. So even though these themes revolving around recursion are there, they do not necessarily point to Tears of the Kingdom being a prequel to Skyward Sword. The Seven Sages, not to be mistaken with the Greeks, are more than one group of people. There have been a few groups in the games that have adorned the title of the Seven Sages. Each iteration is called from the various races of Hyrule to help forge a hero and seal the evil. Tears of the Kingdom returns to form, bringing a new cast to fill the roles. But instead of fire, water, shadow, forest, spirit, and light, Tears of the Kingdom replaces forest and light with lightning and wind. The sages of fire and water are still Agoron and Zora respectively, and wind is new, but you just have to have a Rito in there after the last game. Okay, time to rip the bandage off. This isn't the first time you've met Rauru. The ghostly goat-faced monarch has been a part of the Legend of Zelda lore since the late 90s. Though, he looked less vaguely mammalian and more blatantly Hyrulean. Fun over, these two obviously aren't the same. The Rauru we meet in Tears of the Kingdom had to have lived hundreds of millennia before the events of Ocarina of Time. So, the Zonai King was simply named after the Sage of Light in Ocarina of Time? Or the other way around? Or it's a coincidence. In any case, a reference to a beloved title, and a pain for researching anything about his development as a character. You don't have to fight this next enemy if you don't want to, but you'd be missing out on a facelift that would make Sean Archer's look like nothing. Exploring Hyrule, you will see a few flying foes every now and then. These three-headed elemental lizards are Gleeocks. They've only been in 4 games, but are anything but new to Legend of Zelda. In fact, Gleeocks make the Deku Tree and Impa look like spring chickens. Allow me to take you all the way back to 1986. Who's Johnny is on the radio and Legend of Zelda is on the NES. You're playing through a dungeon and suddenly, a big green dragon sits in between you and the next room. This green two-headed enemy is both the first dragon as well as the first Gleeock in a Legend of Zelda game, and the new version is a much-needed improvement on the last. No inexplicable floating heads and a redesign that better fits the more rugged fantasy setting. If you haven't played the DLC for Breath of the Wild, then it may not even occur to you to revisit the Shrine of Resurrection. Doing so, you'll be met with a cave that has been reclaimed by nature. Walk through the hanging vines, and you'll also see the entire tunnel has been stripped of any Sheikah technology. But by whom, you may wonder? Well, jump down that hole in the back and you may have your answer. Just be prepared for a fight, and bring plenty of bananas. Your reward for making the trek back to where it all began is a Schema Stone. So, not for nothing. So many things have changed from Breath of the Wild. The ancient shrines are missing, there are islands in the sky, and Zonai constructs are everywhere. But amongst these blatant changes were a few that probably went under a lot of people's noses. In fact, I'm willing to bet that depending on how you play video games, you would have never even noticed they were there in the first place. I speak, of course, about exploits. Speedrunning tools for those of us that just need to see those credits before anyone else. A lot of the ones utilized in Breath of the Wild have been removed entirely from Tears of the Kingdom. You might have seen people use whistling to get around the stamina bar. Well, no longer. In fact, tapping the sprint button will deplete your stamina faster. The game teaches shield surfing, but have you heard of shield clipping? Well, it doesn't matter because it's been removed. But all hope isn't lost, my speedy friends. There will definitely be more found, but as of writing this, only the infinite horse stamina remains. No need to track down a giant horse, just don't update your game on day one. Otherwise, you'll lose that one too. My time-bending antics aren't done just yet. Leave that Gleeock alone, because we're traveling exactly 20 years before the first Legend of Zelda was released. The year is 1966. Batman is on the silver screen, and Adam West has never looked better at 38. You're playing on a muted orange shag carpet, grabbing Matchbox cars from a distance. How? The one and only Nintendo Ultrahand. Sure, it doesn't combine items to make useful machines and vehicles, but it can grab an object and bring it closer to you. Before Nintendo made games, they made toys. And you can find references to these earlier years all over their games today. Link's Ultrahand ability in Tears of the Kingdom is only one of many, in a long lineage of homages to the sideways scissor lift long-distance grabbers. So this is a rather short one. If you listen very closely while Link is cooking in the new game, you can hear him humming some familiar tunes. Not only does he know the Hyrule Field theme and Saria's song from Ocarina of Time, but also the Ballad of the Goddess and the Ballad of the Windfish from Skyward Sword and Link's Awakening respectively. But the one that warms my heart more than any other is his little snippet from the main theme. Now, this may be out there, but the final battle felt so familiar, and I couldn't place my finger on it, until I picked Breath of the Wild back up and it snapped. Like lightning in veins, it was electrifying. Ganondorf fights like a mix of a Yiga Blade Master, Monk Maz Koshia, and Link. Let me explain. Ganondorf has 3 phases and utilizes 4 different weapons. A short katana, a large spiked bat, a spear, and a bow. When he uses his bat, he moves and fights like a more aggressive Blade Master. The bat causes an AoE effect similar to the Wind Cleaver, just more numerous and made of malice. His second form duplicates himself and attacks almost exactly like Koshia, just a lot quicker and more chaotic. Finally, how does he fight like Link? Well, his parry and bow attacks are ripped straight from the moves taught to you, the player, in the tests of strength. You attempt to attack him, but he parries back and Shocarina of times from afar. This could all be a coincidence, but it was nice to see the connections, while he graciously wiped the floor with my face. What better way to end a game than fighting a dragon? The third and final form is the Demon Dragon, a black and red version of the ones you see flying around every now and then, but much larger and with a whole lot more horns. But be very careful landing to attack his weak points. The red pits are safe, but walk anywhere on his black scales, and your hearts will start to be leached from you like his attacks earlier. Context is important. Spoomples and Smeef mean nothing in a vacuum. And the title Demon King to a casual player is just an apt description of Big Baddie Final Boss. But it is much more than that. The Zelda timeline is an oft-debated topic amongst fans. Whether you agree with the official Nintendo version or not alters your perception of these revelations. If you don't know, Skyward Sword introduced a demon known as Demise, who, canonically, is responsible for all the turmoil we play through as Link. At the end of the game, Demise warns his hatred and evil will be reborn again to seek vengeance. Ganondorf is that rebirth. Demise is known as the Demon King, and the second phase of Demon King Ganondorf looks almost exactly like an updated Skyward Sword Demise. This is either a gentle tease for a full return of Demise, or furthering the repetition motif, leading Ganondorf down a path where he also suffers the same fate as his predecessor. Only time will tell. You can see all of these and so much more in Tears of the Kingdom. It's only just been released and it's already carved a place in our collective hearts. Staying power is an understatement, and this new addition to the Zelda catalog will be talked about for ages to come. But sadly, friends, this video has a shelf life. And remember, it's dangerous to go alone, so take this.